Welcome to UserAndI, the channel where I teach UI designers how to create user-friendly interfaces. And today we're exploring carousels. First things first, what are carousels? For me, they're a really cool way to show the user a select amount of information when we have loads of information. So for example, in this picture, or in this diagram, the light green squares here within the dark blue box is the information that's going to be shown to the user, and these bits coming off are the bits that are hidden temporarily. That is until the user makes an action or until a timer is completed. So for me, there are three must-have elements of every carousel. So number one are maybe like some sort of visual identifier to show the user how many pieces of information are available in that carousel. Often we see the three dots at the bottom, or sometimes there's a line, there's lines or something, just something that indicates we have X amount of items within this carousel. Number two is killer imagery. Whether that's video, whether that's just photography, we need to make sure that this is bright, that this is really high quality, and it's of the right size, and it's engaging as well. Engaging is a very important factor. And finally, for me, it's navigation. So how does the user get from one slide to the other? Is it on a timer? Then that timer needs to be visible. We need to be able to show that to the user. Is it through arrows? Then that's fine. We just need to be able to show that these arrows are present. If it's on mobile, then that's a little different because the behavior is sliding and swiping, and people are used to that on mobile. But still, it needs to be clear that people can move through this carousel so the user doesn't get stuck. So I guess now the only thing left to do is let's design our own. So I'm going to turn on my guides here. That's going to be Control L. If you'd like a video on how I create my guides using Sketch, just let me know in the comments below. So I'm going to hide this for now. And let's get in our first carousel, aligning that with our grids. So we're going to make 3 here. So what I'll do is I will space these out, align into our grids, and then after that I'm going to hide the grids just so we've got a clearer image. Awesome. So that's Control L again to hide our grids, and let's zoom in just a little bit to 100%. Awesome. So I guess we need some imagery first of all. I'm going to go to Data, Unsplash, and I'm going to search a photo, and we're going to go for a beach. Why not? Awesome. These images are a little low quality coming from Sketch. Let's try that again. Let's go for another beach. Downloading Parker. Let's see what we have. Okay, these images are really low quality. So I'm gonna pause this here and I'm gonna go find some images. Perfect. I'm gonna hit Command K, that brings up the scale window. I'm just gonna scale that down so it's almost just over our boxes. And then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna bring this into my design folder. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna select both and I'm gonna turn them into a mask. So what this does is that it will tuck, oh, wrong one there. So what this is that it will tuck the image within that box itself and hides the overlapping areas. So here's the bounding box of our image, and here is where the image sits currently. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to scale that down a bit more, so that's Command K. I'm going to put the names of all these artists as well from Unsplash in the description box below. So here's our killer imagery. This is step number 2 of every component that every carousel should have. Let's add some text on it, because every image in every carousel should do something. Where are we taking the user? What do we want them to do? What are we trying to present to the user? So I'm going to add some text here. This looks a bit like a travel one, so let's go for, I always love a question. Where will we use? Lovely. And we can just stick that. Well, in fact, I'm gonna stick this on a rectangle, to be honest, just to make it stand out a bit more. Let's get that down a bit more. And nudge that across. Now just nudge in a little bounding box here. And what I'll do is I'll group these. And I'll name that title. That group shortcut, by the way, was Command key. I'm on a Mac, so that'll be Control key on a PC. I'm gonna take this down a little bit more. I'm gonna scale from the left. Shift down will bump it down by 10%, and shift up will bump it up by 10%. And that's good enough for me. This bounding box is now a little too big for the box. So I'm gonna scale that down a little bit and nudge it in. And I'm a big fan of rounded edges, so I'm gonna give this a rounded edge of about, what is that, 6 pixels. Perfect. And now that we've got this behind the box, we can play around with the color a little bit. What are we looking for? What are we feeling like today? Yeah, I do like that color there. Awesome. As I said, I have a thing of rounded edges, so I'm going to round this edge of our carousel as well. Awesome. And I will also give that a really nice drop shadow. Yeah, that's fine. We'll turn down the alpha just a little bit. Just to bring that off the page a tiny bit more. Awesome. Cool. Something about that feels a bit too heavy though, so I'm going to take down the actual drop down shadow color. Okay, perfect. And what does it look like with a border? Let's have a look. Let's give that a white border. Scale it up a little bit. Okay, that's starting to look a bit more interesting. And if we take down the alpha, just a little bit. Okay. If we bump up the border on that. Part of designing is exploring and seeing what fits and what fits the style you're going for. And I guess now we're freestyling, we can pretty much do what we want, which is nice. Okay, perfect. Okay, now let's imagine we have 4 slides on this image. Let's go with 3. Let's go with 3, that's fine. Now, typically you'll find these at the bottom right here. So I will put them here for now, and then we can experiment elsewhere where we can put these. So to get your shortcut for your circle tool, or your oval tool, sorry, would be O on your keyboard. And the shortcut to group these is Command and G. To ungroup is Command Shift G. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to center align this with my carousel. First I'm going to pop this in here, because that's in the wrong layer. And I'm going to select both, and then I'm going to hit this button here, which will center align it with what else I've selected. Let's style these a little bit. So we are going to set the color to the same color as our text. And what I'll do is I'll take the border off, and that gives us a really crisp edge. And then what I'll do is that I will take down the opacity of... So this is pretty much showing that we want this first one is the active screen here, is the active slide, sorry. And already I kind of like that, it's quite simple. But I think we can do something a bit more creative than that. Let's experiment with where we can put these. We can also tuck them behind here. But I don't know how the thing is, what you want to do here is like, these dots will always need enough contrast on the image below it to show effectively. So what I will actually do is, I actually think I prefer them on the right here, well on the left, sorry. Yeah, I quite like that. And then let's add a little design actually. It's simple, but we could jazz it up a bit more. Let's take off the border on that. Let's double click this. And what we're going to do is that we're going to play with the edge here. I'm going to select a curved edge. And I'm going to take this down a little bit. What do we like? Do we prefer that? There we go, that's what I was aiming for. So that looks a bit more interesting. And what I'll do is I'll make that white. And I'll also turn down the transparency of that. And what we're going to do is that we'll duplicate that as well. And then we'll turn up the transparency of the one below it. Awesome. To be honest, could probably stick this in here now, can't we? There we go. And let's see how that looks like with other images as well. How does that stack up? Just gonna add a new image in here, just bear with me for a second. So I've just added a new image. And what I'll do is I will scale that down. I quite like that actually. Okay, so we have killer imagery, of course. We have the 3 dots, and what we need now are navigation. So this is assuming this will be on desktop, and I think we could probably do with a few arrows here. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep them alongside our 2 dots. So let's go with a rectangle. And what we're going to do is we're going to remove that edge there. So that was double click on a point, and then you delete it. And what we're going to do is going to rotate this. I'm pressing shift here to go a bit faster as I rotate. Fine with that. And as always, I'm going to take the border off this, and I'm going to scale that down. So that's Command K on your Mac, Control K on your PC, and I'm going to make these black, but I'm going to turn down the transparency on that. To duplicate that was Command D, and then I'm going to flip this the other way. I'm going to tuck these between that, and then I'm actually going to scale this down a little bit. Okay. I'm going to group these with Command G and just move these across. So there's our navigation alongside our 3 dots as well. And I'm just going to tuck this in because I think it could be a bit more interesting. Let's amend the shape of this. I prefer it like that. And if I'm honest, I will give this a bit more room to breathe as well. Okay, so that's our first carousel. And if we toggle between the images, what are you guys' thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. big fan of this. I quite like that. As you can probably see, carousels are pretty much made out of the images we choose, and this is why it's important that they're high quality. I'm going to leave this here for now, and then we're going to carry on next week, and we'll create carousel number 2. And then we'll go on the next week after that and create carousel number 3. So we'll build on the knowledge that we're learning here, and each week we'll get a bit more creative. So thank you very much for watching the video. Please subscribe. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are, what you want a video on next. Thank you very much.